Good morning. Let's get started. It's 9:32 and it's the reinvestment zone number 2 island meeting. Ms. Huerta, if you'd please call the roll.
Chairman Dan Suckley.
Here.
Board members Roland Barrera. I know he's here.
He's here.
I guess he's just not out. Sylvia Campos is also here. Brent Chesney.
Here.
Joe Gonzalez is absent. Paulette Guajardo. Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Michael Hunter.
Here.
Jim Klein. Mr. Klein will be absent. John Mattis.
Here.
Mike Pesley.
Here.
Everett Roy.
Here.
Connie Scott.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum present to conduct the meeting.
Thank you. Do we have anyone here to make public comment this morning? With no one here for public comment, Ms. Huerta, did we receive any written public comments?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item D, the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes anyone has identified? If there's no changes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, who made the motion to approve? Was it Michael? Yes, thank you.
E, financial reports.
Good morning, everyone. Secretary, Director of Finance. Before you, we have the financial position for the tax reinvestment zone number 2 as of August 31st, 2024. If we turn here to second slide, we look to the far right column as for the actuals. We started the fiscal year 2024 with a fund balance of about $14.2 million. Revenues year to date as of August 31st amounted to $6.5 million. We spent $5,166 in professional services. We transferred out to capital improvement funds a total of about $9.5 million. We spent about $80,000 on administrative services. This leaves us with an ending fund balance of about $11.2 million. And we do have future commitments to be paid of about $43 million, and we have a maintenance reserve of about $500,000. Next, we have a listing of the CIP projects, which have a total budget of about $26.6 million. Expenditures as of August 31st, 2024 amount to $13.7 million. This leaves a available balance of budget amounting to about $13 million. Next, we have a snapshot of our future commitments with cash flows based on the conservative projection. We start with our estimated annual revenue amounting forecasted about $6 million per year. We have current and future incentives ranging from $21 million to $8.3 million to $13.6 million in the upcoming years. In 2024, our admin and other expense column, we have other expenses of $4 million, which is our commitment to the Briscoe King Pavilion. The remaining years are estimates of admin and other minor expenses. This leaves a total estimated balance available for commitments ranging from $16 million to $22 million, $7 million, and towards the end we have an unfavorable balance, but we're confident that with the improvements made in the investment zone, that unfavorable balance should go away.
I'd like to ask a question real quick. If you can go back to that last slide. With respect to the 2 large projects on the island, Whitecap and Lake Padre, a large portion of the future and current and future incentives are dedicated to them. Have those numbers shifted from years with the speed by which those projects are moving or aren't moving?
As far as the values we're receiving in improvements?
Yeah, the projected reimbursement for those particular years that are identified.
I'd have to get back to you on that. Okay, I think Heather can speak to that.
Good morning, Heather Hurlbert, Assistant City Manager. So those have adjusted a little bit, and just a reminder to the board that those portion of those reimbursements are actually tied to the increment that is created by that development. So we are very conservative on what our revenue estimates are. So this really doesn't reflect that growth. We have that total commitment in here just as a placeholder, but it will only be reimbursed as that increment is created within that development area, and those reimbursements will come directly from that. So it's hard to reflect it in this, the way that we do this, because it's a very simple illustration, but we would not overdraw this because it would be related to the increment that's created. If that makes sense.
It does, but the estimates have shifted, I assume, a little bit?
Yes,
but they remain conservative.
They remain conservative. They have shifted because it'll only be paid out as that increment is created, and so we will not pay out more than what that increment generates in an annual year. So most of these will not be paid out in a lump sum. It'll be paid out as that increment is generated over a series of years.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Pusley?
There we go. So, in plain English,
Yes,
the developer's not going to get reimbursed until the money's there.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
I got that.
Board Member Scott?
Oh, no, I was just commenting
Good.
about him.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And then our last slide is a listing of the commitments for the $40.3 million, and just a couple of highlights here is some of the larger ones include the Public Mobility Bridge at Park Road 22 of $7 million, Commodore's Drive Mobility Bridge at $9.2 million, and Lake Padre development of the promenade of $13.6 million. This concludes my presentation unless there's any more questions.
Any more questions? No? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
F, executive session items, of which we have none this morning. Moving on to G, agenda items. 24-1731, discussion and possible action on a purchase of a boat and a restroom facility for Packery Channel maintenance in an amount of $370,000.
I move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second in support of this item. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Hold on 1 second. Board Member Pusley.
Okay, so who's going to be in charge of the boat?
Parks and Recreation. That's going to be.
Park and Recreation?
Yes, sir.
And you're going to do what with it?
So we're going to have the maintenance of the Packery Channel. So back whenever we finish the dredging, Sergeant Gonzalez, Assistant Director of Parks and Rec, by the way.
Okay.
Whenever we finished the dredging in 2024, we were given the maintenance from engineering to Parks and Recreation. So with that, we looked at everything that we needed to get done. A lot of phone calls came in about navigational aids, other maintenance items that we needed to complete. But we can't complete those because they're in the water, of course. And so this has to do with a lot of the upkeep, a lot of the maintenance that we are going to be taking over.
Well, I understand that, and maintenance of a dryland park is different than water maintenance, so I'm a little concerned about whether or not y'all have the, not saying anything bad about you guys, but what level of expertise that you have on board to do maintenance, and what kind of maintenance would you be looking at?
Okay, so really the basic maintenance, what we're looking at is, again, one of the issues that we've had is the shoaling that's going on within the Packery Channel. We've talked to Deidre from Conrad Blucher, HDR, about some of the, how can we make this better for the community, for the visitors, for the boaters. And a lot of it had to do, when we say maintenance, I don't want to get that confused with monitoring, because we will monitor, but it's going to be on a monitoring maintenance basis.
And you're monitoring what now?
So we're monitoring, one is shoaling, signs. I can go through this if you'd like me to.
Okay.
I can. So cover the maintenance plan here. No wake idle signs, the ATONs, aids navigation. Some of the examples that we'd be putting up, and although we're trying to, we're waiting on engineering to get us our no wake zone signs all the way from 361 south to Clems. This is some examples though. Boat ramp that we've noticed that boaters we need to put up close to the channel, close to where the boat ramp is. Danger signs where what we noticed right there, Lake Padre, as soon as you come out, there's really shallow water, and I know we had some people put up stakes around there that's caused some shoaling there, so we want to be able to put navigational aids around there, for example, with the ATONs. Another thing is inspection of the jetties. So what we're doing is just taking a visual, we got with Jeff too, we're looking at bank failures, erosion, those kind of things to go ahead and put in a project if we need to engineering. Engineering, for example, they would lead that kind of project there. Monitoring, again, when I say monitoring and identify, what we do is periodically, I would say maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, we take the boat out, along with the maintenance side, look at potential shoalings, depths, so we can have that safety aspect for the boaters.
And define for me what you mean by shoaling.
Shoaling is if I come up on a boat and I notice that there's a lot of, sand where I could, I don't know what the terminology is called, but run aground, then that's something that we've actually had phone calls on, specifically in that area.
Okay.
So that's what, we're looking at that kind of shoaling there. And again, we want to take we really want to take a proactive instead of a reactive, aspect of this, so we can, take care of those kind of things that we get phone calls on.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have some concerns about this, but, we understand that the Packery Channel is going to be depositional issues that go on there year round, and we've budgeted money for taking care of that on a year in and year out basis. So I don't know how it pays us to have somebody go out and look at something we know is going to happen. I don't know. Okay, that's all I have.
I had some of the same concerns, Board Member Pusley, with respect to kind of who had the expertise to assess the erosion component and that sort of thing, and who's going to be doing it on behalf of Parks and Rec, and then certainly the maintenance on the boat.
Right.
I think Parks and Rec has had a boat previously that I don't think maybe got maintained properly or didn't get utilized, and so just don't want to create that same instance here. And I know this is sort of a different purpose, but certainly our concerns should be noted. Board Member Hernandez.
Okay, thank you. Let me understand this completely. Is it going to be you guys, or is it going to be the marina that's going to be handling this?
Inside the Packery Channel?
Right.
It's going to be Parks and Recreation.
So it's going to be...
You said marina, right?
Right. You're going to be focused on the marina. So you understand agency navigation has specific requirements that's managed by the Coast Guard. Are you going to be working with them? Do you understand what that entails?
So we have had conversation. I know Darren, our superintendent, has. We've been in contact with them. We put in some, we've bought signs to help out with that. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we will be in contact.
Okay, that answer did make me very, very comfortable. So I want to make sure that we're going to be following the guidelines that the Coast Guard sets out for aids to navigation in a navigable waterway.
Yeah, no, we'll follow the guidelines.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The other aspect of this is, do you have the capability to do, you're just going to identify things, and then we contract out to address those issues separately? What is it that you're going to be bringing back to us? Obviously just identifying shoaling doesn't help.
No, it's shoaling, it's the signs. A lot of the stuff that we're dealing with is all safety aspects, but at this point, say we do have to replace a sign, for example, no wake signs. We have to have a contract, go out for bid, depending on how much it is, of course, and wait for that to happen. In the meantime, there is phone calls that are coming in. There's some safety issues that we need to address. This actually addresses that for us to have a proactive approach. Now, I think what you're discussing or what you're saying is there's a big survey that goes on, and that's something that we won't, of course, we'll be the lead on it with engineering, but that's something we contract out where it does the whole channel. So that's something separate on the monitoring side. This is just the maintenance of it.
So one of the things is our beach maintenance crew is very knowledgeable about sand, works with GLO, works with the Corps, works with the Coast Guard. And so this will be in conjunction with our beach maintenance. In addition to that, reminder that Marina is under Parks and Recreation. It's part of Park and Recreation. So we'll be working very closely with Marina on navigational issues along with the different officials. So this really provides us the opportunity to be on the water, monitoring the channel from the water. Right now, we're only able to monitor it from the land. And so we're able to react more quickly when there are objects in the channel, when we have the shoaling, as Sergio mentioned, along with monitoring the banks, looking for undermining, things like that, to be able to do that instead of having to contract out for it. Right now, we're having to contract out for that because we can't get onto the water. This allows us to get onto the water and do those type of day-to-day activities and monitoring.
Okay, last question. Is this going to require us to hire anybody?
No, we actually already have 4 staff that have their captain's licenses. So remember, beach maintenance is out there on a regular basis every day dealing with the shoreline. This will just be an extension of that.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Pusley.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So, when we had our ribbon cutting for the Packery Channel opening, Parks and Wildlife was there. I think there even was some Coast Guard people there. And, the Parks and Wildlife folks were giving people rides on their boat along the and the Parks and Wildlife guy came up and asked me, would you like to go? I said, well, and I didn't have time. He said, well, anytime you need to do that, just let us know and we'll be happy to provide the boat to do that. So I wonder why we couldn't form a partnership with, on a regular basis, have Parks and Wildlife or somebody go out and provide the boat to do. They have lots of boats.
It's something that I'd probably say.
Because I own boats, and the old saying about a boat is a hole in the water to put money in is absolutely the truth.
Yes.
So I have a little concern about this and us owning a boat that we're going to use periodically. The less you use them, the more maintenance you have. So anyway, I'm done.
How's it going to be stored?
Yeah.
Board Member Chesney.
Thank you. I have the same questions and concerns. Can someone remind me, one, where this proposal came from, and two, what the cost of the boat is versus the prefab restroom facility, of which, to me, this ought to probably be 2 separate items, because I don't think there's any issue on the prefab restroom facility, but mine would be, where'd the boat request come from? How much is the boat? Is it going to be stored somewhere? And does the county get to use the boat? We don't, we contract everything out like this, but if we're going to buy a boat, then, and this is a TIRZ, certainly, I don't know that I support it, but I'd sure like access to it if in fact we're going to do it, because we contract stuff like this out. So maybe someone could answer those questions, because I've got the same concerns as Board Member Pusley and Hernandez.
Yeah, let me see if I can bring it up.
Sergio, would you like to address?
Yeah, I'm just trying to bring up the the PowerPoint. Hold on, I went one too far. Okay, so the model, it's a 25-foot boat right. It's all aluminum. Okay, it's $105,000. Vehicle replacement, that's a VERF. The motor's 5,000, the trailer's 1,000. So this is a similar boat that TCEQ, GLO, what they use as well. But the most cost of it is going to be that aluminum. What we noticed about, I don't know what the old boat was. I don't know if it was aluminum, but this is a pretty heavy-duty boat, again, that the big other entities use. So we know it's going to last a while. And so we want to invest in something that's going to, we're going to get our money's worth.
So who made where did the request come from? Meaning, is this a staff-driven request, a board member request?
Yes, sir. It's staff request. Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many times a year do you anticipate using the boat?
I'm probably say at least weekly or bi-weekly.
And how many calls are you really getting on this? Because to go and do stuff that you're having to contract out? And how much does that contract cost y'all? This is about 105, 14, 19, so $120,000 we're going to spend out of TIRZ funds for a boat. I'd really like some more justification on this, and I'd really like maybe to even pull this out and consider tabling it and voting on the prefab bathroom, which I think is a no-brainer for everybody. But, I mean, I'll let you answer those questions first, because I'm having a hard time seeing the need for this right now.
Yeah, for the phone calls, we do, I couldn't give you a number, but I know we get phone calls and emails about the shoaling, about the signs, and of course, we have to go and contract that out. I can tell you right now that for the no wake signs that we want to put up, we are actually just waiting for that to come in, and that's been a good month and a half since we put it in for the contractor. So we're still waiting on that side of it.
So how many calls? You don't have an answer today, and
right, and I can get you that.
Right. Okay. And then how much do you spend now on this contract basis? Because I mean that's kind of an important analysis in deciding. Because $120,000 for a boat, I'm just not. And you might be able to provide it, and maybe that's a good reason to table it because I don't have it today, and that's a big number. That's 6 figures for a boat. Mm-hmm. And where are you going to store it?
So we'll store it at the beach operations close to Access Road 2.
Inside?
Inside, yes, sir. Secured, everything. Yes, sir. And probably during the summer season, whenever we get the facility built on Zahn Road, that'll be easier accessible as well, too. For in case Beach Rescue needs to use it, they can pull it out as well. So those 2 areas there.
Okay.
Sergio, it's probably worth noting that where the need comes from, if you're identifying there's a need for it, is the transition from engineering, sort of handling the channel and the channel maintenance and observation, to Parks and Rec, and that occurred this past year?
Yes, sir.
So there's where Parks and Rec is now is being required to monitor it and maintain it now. So that helps to understand why all of a sudden this is coming about, because it's in their lap to handle, as opposed to engineering, who probably historically has more so hired third parties to come out and do what hopefully they would be able to do some of. But
So you're talking $120,000 investment plus staff time. Do you have, again, I'm going to ask, I mean, and I didn't see it. If I missed it, my bad, but I didn't see that in the background, the backup information. Do you have some sort of financial analysis of the cost of buying the boat, the staff people that you're going to have to dedicate the time to, versus how much you're spending on contract? Because I don't think it's fair to ask this body to make that decision unless you have that financial analysis provided. And if I missed it, I missed it, but I didn't see that.
And I think that's fair. Board Member Chesney, if the board is in agreement of that, I don't think there's any urgency to this boat. So I'll
rescind my second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to table.
Whoa. Just
And a
part of
second.
it, right? Part of it? Yeah, please. The boat part.
Yep,
And so that information can come out.
correct. So additional information, analysis, and cost justification, and if that can be a part of it the next time it comes back. Board Member Roy.
My only other part of my question is, are there any other duties within Parks and Rec? Because, we have North Beach and some other areas that this boat, I don't know if the configuration of this boat can be used in other places, but I think when you're doing this analysis, if there's multiple locations and multiple uses for this boat, then I think that would also help us try to understand and validate the cost. I was just sitting there thinking, like, what is the distance from one part of the channel to the other part in terms of, and what other uses could you use the boat?
Right.
And the other thing I was just kind of thinking off the cuff is that if you're out there patrolling and part of what you're looking at is maintenance and shoals and all that or whatever, could you partner with someone that if they saw something there, maybe somebody that wasn't being safe or something like that, do they have the ability or authority to write tickets or police that? Could you have a partner with maybe the, what do you call that?
Game wardens, and I know at times they're out there patrolling as well.
Yeah, maybe partner with somebody that could go out there with you. I'm just trying to come up with other reasons where we can make sure that we utilize this to its fullest.
Right. No, I agree. Yes, definitely we can look at.
Yeah, park ranger or something like that. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Game wardens, park rangers. We've seen. Yes, we definitely can, and we can look at that as well. One of the more important things is the visibility as well too. That kind of helps a lot when you see a boat with lights and don't know what it is, but that's also a good notion. But yes, definitely we can talk to the game wardens and Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Okay.
Board Member Chesney.
Just quick follow-up, thank you. I don't know enough about boats to be dangerous, but I did get a text from someone questioning why we needed 2 motors on a boat, and that's a lot of boat. So maybe someone could also put that in. I just don't know why you need that boat.
It's only one.
It's
the
only
picture
one.
had 2, but the cost breakdown's only
The
one.
aluminum, the aluminum side is what's the majority of the cost of the boat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one motor though.
And again, if someone could, if this is going to go forward, I'd certainly like for someone from the city to reach out to the county to work out how we can use that boat if that's going to go forward, because we are contributing to the TIRZ as well. So we currently contract out. We're happy to keep doing that. But if you're going to have a boat, then I'd sure like to be able to have some access to it as well, please. Thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, so we have a motion and a second to table the boat portion.
Who seconded? I'm sorry. Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Back to the original motion absent the boat. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 4, 24-1735, discussion and possible action on an approval of a Briscoe King Pavilion project and appropriation of $1,911,356 from the tax increment financing zone number 2.
Good morning. I'm Scott Cross. I'm the Coastal Parks Director, and I'm going to run through a slideshow for you here about Briscoe King. I'm going to move pretty fast, so if you need to interrupt me or ask any questions, feel free to, because a lot of these slides I'm going to go over. Emily, with the EDR Architects, our architect on this project, is also going to model in a 3D program for you as well, so you get a better idea of what we're doing. So let's see here. There we go. So you're looking at the future of what Briscoe King Pavilion will look like. To the left, you're looking at the original complex. To the right, you're looking at the new complex. I think some of you in here may have seen this before, these renderings. And then you got a view from the parking lot right there. Then this is another view, basically from the dune side, showing you, looking to the west it would be, and then there's another view with the parking lot and the ADA access right there. One of the things this is going to do with the new and the old, it's going to take basically the platform, the complex together around it and make it ADA accessible. It is not ADA accessible right now, and so it'll give a nice little courtyard to it. This is kind of an aerial view. One thing I want to point out, what we're asking for to reconstruct the existing pavilion and build the new one, this has nothing to do with the parking lot. We do not have any funding to redo the parking lot right now. That's about $1 million. So anyhow, I just wanted to point that out because we got some, these renderings show, a pretty parking lot, but that's not part of this project. This is kind of like another floor plan view for you. It shows again the existing, and it shows the new and the assembly area inside the new. Let's see here. And this gives you your square footage of the existing right now, and this is total square footage. This is not assembly square footage. This gives you your assembly square footage. And one of the pods, some of you are familiar with the old Briscoe King Pavilion. One of those pods, that one closest to the new, will be turned into storage and a small office in order to manage the complexes. Because with the new square footage, we didn't have enough room for storage, chairs, tables, AV equipment, stuff like that. So here's a opinion of probable construction costs that we have. This was just updated because I think when some of my board members came before y'all a good while back, this is my first time being here at TIRZ, we had to go back and update this just for, as you probably all know, construction inflation costs are just, it's crazy out there. So we did have a 5% increase on the project as far as construction cost, and that's reflected there. So I'm going to recap right here. The existing unconditioned building there's the square footage there. Future use, we'll have 2 pods. There's your assembly square footage there, and then below the new, that's your first level square footage, and your assembly square footage is basically when you take out the caterer's kitchen, the maintenance closet, mechanical stuff. That's a little over 4,000 square foot. But they can accommodate, well, here's a better graph on it. You can accommodate 298 occupants in the new, and the parking lot, like I said, the parking lot, that's a big parking lot. It can accommodate 300 plus vehicles out there. Although, yes, it needs to be repaved. This is not part of the project. An estimated timeline from notice to proceed to a contractor. I'm not sure how this interlocal stuff works with the county and the city on a TIRZ project. I've never done that before. But once all that administrative stuff's out of the way, then 12 to 14 months for a notice to proceed with a contractor to finish it. And so what we're doing here, I understand there's been $4 million basically earmarked for the project, however, whatever term you want to use. The opinion of probable construction cost is $5,911,358, and so we're $1,911,358 short of meeting our opinion of probable construction cost. So that's the ask today, additional $1,911,358, and that's it for me.
I've got a couple questions, Scott. So I think when middle of last summer, when we came back and went from $2 million to $4 million, I believe there was discussion about a good portion of the construction cost was going to be for parking lot improvements. And now it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but tell me what the parking is going to look like when all is said and done. How much of this money is being addressed to the parking?
None.
Fixing.
I mean, I didn't have that conversation.
Okay.
Accessible items.
Yeah, well, the accessible parking, yes. Accessible parking will be improved upon because you have to have no more than a 2% cross slope for accessible parking and your accessible route to the accessible facilities. So that'll all be improved and made, up to grade ADA. But as far as the rest of the big giant parking lot out there, right now we don't have any funding earmarked for repaving that. The problem with the parking lot, it does have some low spots in it, so it gets ponding water. We call it Lake Briscoe. But so we're going to have to address that at some point. The last estimate I got, which was probably 3-4 years ago, was a little over $800,000, and that was just chip seal. So. And
that's what I recalled was I thought that there was going to be some improvements to the parking lot, including fixing the drainage. And so now that's not a part of this. So I think we just all need to be aware that that's not going to be improved at this point.
Yes, sir.
So, okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Now, that's not to say that I can't work with my commissioner here and see what we can come up with at a later date.
Sure.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to have a $6 million facility to have a nicer parking lot where people don't have to step out in the water potentially. So that'd be great. Board Member Roy.
So I think I'm going down the same road that everybody else is on this, but so 298 people, that's what can fit, or what's the total?
It would help if I pull up my 3D.
Yes.
Would that be okay? I need to plug in the HDMI, which will switch your monitors.
Can you speak into the mic a little more directly, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, hi, I'm Emily Rosie Paul with EDR Architects.
Emily, did you check with IT first? I don't think you can.
I did all of this yesterday morning.
Did you really? Okay, here they come. Yeah.
Yeah, she did a run through yesterday so we wouldn't have any snags.
Yeah, I think we have it on our.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't allow other computers, I don't think, the system.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so let me kind of explain the run-through, and you're correct. The whole parking lot that you're seeing on the 3D is not part of this. This was a previous scope that I was working out with Scott. So the project in itself, the funding is not just for the new building. The funding is, of course, we're going to have the accessible parking that has to be redone, an accessible ramp system and stairs to get up to the facility, both the new facility and the current facility. So the existing facility in itself, that money is also being used to renovate that facility as well as the new build. So it's not just for the new building itself. The existing building itself, as you're familiar with, has a lot of accessibility issues, entrances, doors, items like that. So it's currently 3 pods. We're looking at turning one of the pods into an office area and then some storage. The restrooms on the existing facility actually inside are pretty good. They're ADA compliant. Finishes are a little bit outdated, but those restrooms are good. The new facility itself, the 298 people, I'm going to take you top down with some furniture on. That would be the big meeting space itself. Now that's 298 people. You know, if they're in there, you don't have necessarily tables and chairs set up, you know, if you're having an event that doesn't need a whole bunch of seating. This seating right here is currently showing like 248 people. So that is the main space. The other part of this facility, you have a little catering kitchen, of course you have restrooms, and then there is a mezzanine in this tower that is utility mezzanine, so we can get all of your utilities, HVAC, everything up into the mezzanine area. This facility itself is elevated, so if y'all are familiar with Surfside Park at North Beach, I was the architect on that one, and that is an elevated structure, concrete, breakaway walls below it. This facility is going to be similar to that. You have to build it up, you're right on the beach. So we're building it up around to be used. What we're doing is creating the accessible parking and the ramp system and the stairs and all the paving around both the existing facility and the new facility to comply with accessibility as well. And so all of that will be coming up, one system to share for both facilities.
Ramp.
Yes, and then a vehicular ramp on the far side here as well. That will be coming up for deliveries, for catering kitchen, whatever you need up here. Now, items that are big ticket items that you don't, when you think, oh, well, the parking lot's not included, there are utility issues. The current building is under bad, outdated septic. So we're going to have to possibly do, and again, this is very preliminary between Scott and myself. My consultants have not been involved at this point yet. But utilities, force main for water, we have to fire sprinkle the new facility because of the occupant load. Water pressure tests need to be done to make sure we don't have to have a storage tank out here for fire sprinkler system. So there's still quite a bit of due diligence to do on this.
So that's kind of my question, and I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but given the light of the parking lot, and it sounds like you have some other issues, is this something that maybe we should step back and take a look at what you really think is going to be more of the true cost?
Well, Again, the true cost is going to come really once you bid it, honestly. We've started on this one on 2021, and with each year, and again, you're correct, we could come in and dig deeper. We would have to get consultants and design involved in the beginning. So at this point right now, just preliminary schematic, what I've done with Scott has just been, with myself, not civil engineers. My structural engineers, my MEP engineers have been consulted on it. My MEP engineer said, estimated cost for just mechanical for the facility is about $498,000. I mean, that's a big part of the cost. MEP always is. And with the parking lot itself, we'll have some cut-throughs through the existing surface to patch, but the biggest part is focusing mainly on what you're seeing right here in this area, the new build, the accessible parking, the accessible entrance up, and then the renovation of the existing facility.
Yeah, I really think maybe stepping back and taking a look at what we think that the overall costs are going to be. I just think when you have this facility done, I think it's 12 to 14 months. Is that what it was projected as far as the time frame?
Construction time. Construction time,
right. And then I think when you have this done and then you're still sitting there with the lake out in the parking lot, that just isn't a good look. So that's just my only suggestion on that. Thank you.
Board Member Pusley.
The old facility is going to be air conditioned and heated?
So we had looked at that originally, and then we decided not to spend the money on the air conditioning of part of it. The pod, this one pod right here, closest to the building, which will become office area, storage area, and the little central portion as a catering kitchen, we will condition.
Okay. Okay. Well,
And
I was
may I go a
hoping the
little-
whole thing was going to...
May I go a little bit further on that?
Sure.
We did look at conditioning the facility. It's a lot more cost because now you have to have your energy efficient doors, windows, insulation. There is a lot more to it than just adding air conditioning.
Okay. Yeah, my concern goes back along with Councilman Roy, the parking lot issue, and I'm very familiar with what that looks like when it rains. And when you say you're creating ADA accessible parking, well, if you can't get to that ADA accessible parking because the parking lot is flooded, then it's not really ADA accessible. And I don't know how you look at this project without looking at the parking lot and issues there, but I don't know, Scott. You said 3 years ago you looked at the parking and it was 800,000, so it's probably $1.6 million by now.
There's no telling, Mr. Pusley. I just don't know. I mean, these construction pricing, it just blows me away with the projects we're doing, how high they're going and continue to go. And I can't tell you what wood prices are going to look like, a year from now with all the devastation and with the hurricanes and stuff. Everybody's got to rebuild. I'm sure that's going to affect the market. But anyhow, I mean, I could get a factual ground truth estimate on the parking lot and bring that back to you. But right now, I was just focusing on the complex.
So we don't yet have an estimate on if you have to go in and fix the septic system. You don't have an estimate on that yet?
What's the actual cost to plumb this in the MEP is in your
right.
budget there, broken down.
But that's utilizing the existing septic system?
No. We're going to put it on actual real sewer system.
Okay.
So you'd have to saw cut through the parking lot and get to the force main.
Okay.
And whatever you have to do to tie into an existing force main, or do you have to run another one and connect up with the cities up there on Park Road 22? And then doing that, do you have to have some kind of smaller grinder pump station like we have at the parks?
Okay.
Then you're going to have a dedicated fire line. Dedicated fire lines are not cheap.
Okay. That's all I had.
Board Member Guajardo.
Thank you. So I was thinking in lines of what Councilman Roy mentioned. What the parking lot is of concern. So a couple of things. The parking lot. So has anybody given thought of where that money would come from? Because you can't have a $6 million, actually more, correct? It's going to be more than $6 million.
plus this 1.9, that's cities.
today. But they just said that some of these things have not been, I mean, to
They're
Councilman
estimated
Roy's
for.
point,
They're estimated for it, they are.
So it's not, okay, so it's not anything, well, I guess we don't know, but it's an estimate. You just haven't brought in the engineers and
Correct.
that, right. And that's going to be a cost.
That's all in here.
Okay, those
All the
costs are in
design
there.
fees are in that estimate.
Okay,
Yes, I'm sorry, all the design fees are in that.
okay. But again, the parking lot's going to be an issue. And we all know this. Let him finish.
Depending on the amount of rainfall we get, depends on whether I've got a problem with the parking lot. And it's really up the northwest corner of it. Y'all seen it. That's many of y'all been. That's the low spot right there. But you know, again, I just don't know. I got to ground truth that number again, and I didn't know that was going to be discussed that much.
Well, and the reason why it is because we do streets, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that we look at very closely and as priority, right, for anything. Because that parking lot, after you build a $6 million facility or renovate, is going to be an issue. And so my question is, let's get all this out front. Where is that money going to come from when it becomes an issue and the complaints come in? And I'm not necessarily asking you, Scott, but I'm saying if there isn't already, has there been thought, Commissioner, I guess I'm asking you the question, has there been thought of where the $800 to $1 million is going to come from to fix that parking lot? Or is it going to come right back to this dais? And if it is, it's something we should just discuss.
So the discussion was for the 6 to 8 times, let's make sure we're clear. We're talking 6 to 8 times a year that it floods. Not every day, not all the time. So the discussion was the island needed this facility. There is not a space on the island like this that has the amount of capacity that this has. So the discussion was, okay, we can come back in here and ask for more. That was not advised. We put the money into the facility because for the 6 to 8 times a year that it's a problem, it wasn't worth, at this point, there's nothing wrong with the parking lot other than there are some low spots. So let's kind of bring that back around, right? So my anticipation is to not come back for a period of time to this board or anyone else, because at this point it's not worth, because the cost continues to go up. When you and I and Councilman Smith started talking about this way back when, it was 2021 or whatever it was, I don't even remember. And here we are 3 years later and the costs keep going up. So if we continue to wait on this, then I'm going to have to come back for more just on the construction part, because this goes up every time we wait. Personally, I don't believe it's worth spending $1 million on a parking lot right now for 6 to 8 times a year that it's a problem out there with the flooding. Does that mean at some point we need to address it? Yes, but there's only so much money. I didn't feel like coming back and asking for, instead of $2 million, $4 million on top of the already 4 was appropriate, because honestly, I would have had a harder time with you asking me, well, why are we spending $1.6 million on a parking lot instead of why aren't you? Because it's easier for me to justify not spending it right now because it's 6 to 8 times a year that it floods. And it's only in a certain area. So it's not like you drive in there and it's bad parking. I was out there the other day. There's nothing wrong with it. It's huge. It's plenty of parking. We might need to stripe it, make it a little, but that's nothing. So I'll be honest with you, Mayor, I had no anticipation of coming back and asking. Because to me, it's better to spend the money on these facilities that are much, much needed on the island than a parking lot. I just don't think it's worth asking for anybody to spend $1 million, $2 or $4 or whatever the number is, when we can put that into this facility and have 200. That 289 number. I'm sorry, I don't remember what it was. 248. That's just that facility. Then there's those other pods. So there's more capacity in the other pods. Again, the decision was made not to go back and air condition that one that's there because it was ridiculous. It's often more expensive to renovate than it is to build new, or at least the same as we found with Bob Hall Pier and the building that's left over there as well. So we said, look, we'll leave that alone because people use that a lot, and you can rent that to people at a lot lower price so that people can still have plenty of accessibility, because people were concerned about
the air conditioned.
Yeah, the unair conditioned. Like there's the air conditioned section, and then there's the pod that's currently there that they've made the Parks Board and with the architects, said to not air condition that because it was going to be ridiculous to add air conditioning into that. So that facility will still be usable to anybody who wants to use it. And it's very, I mean, that thing's used all the time now without air conditioning.
Right. But
so you'll have an option.
The area where you showed the tables, that's air conditioning.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The new space is all, we're just talking about the pod that's currently there now.
Right.
That's not air conditioned. They found it to be too cost prohibitive to go in and add air conditioning and do all the doors that you had to do. And so it just didn't make sense.
And so back to the lot. So the condition of the lot is not necessarily bad. And I don't remember.
It's a chip seal lot. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a.
It's just the low-lying area.
We don't, in the county, obviously, we don't have the same requirements as the city, and so we don't have to build, concrete lots or whatever, but there's nothing wrong with the lot other than there's some low-lying areas.
Yeah.
It needs to be striped in those low-lying areas, but to go in and spend $1 million plus right now, it's just hard for me in good conscience to come ask for that when I think the facility and the money spent on the facility is much, much more important.
And you said 6 to 8 times. Is that based on just historically what people?
Yeah, it's based on the amount of rainfall we get,
No, I'm talking.
And it's just in certain areas.
I thought you were talking about how many times it's used. It's going to be used quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're saying, I apologize. That's how many times a year that we have a water issue in that parking lot. And it's in certain areas. It's not the whole parking lot. It's in certain areas that are out there.
And so do we have, this is obviously a facility that the city would want to use.
That's been discussed, Mayor. And
that is discussed.
I know that when I met with.
We want you to use the boat. You want to use the facility. That's
exactly.
Fair. No.
Well, I met with.
It's fair.
Yeah, that was my other question was, I set up that meeting last year that you were a party to, the mayor, Peter, Scott, several of us were there starting the conversation about what that potential interlocal agreement would look like. So, we obviously have ISAC meetings, we have the PIBA luncheons, things that happen during the day, which is typically not the time that you guys have programming there. So there's a lot of value that could be added there for the city and the community to have access to it. So I would hope that whatever agreement we have to move forward would include that interlocal
Yeah, we've just been
agreement.
looking for that from y'all.
Yeah, and that was my point, Chairman, is I want to see an agreement moving forward where we would have, we have budget meetings, input sessions. We have a whole lot of stuff that we would, or multiple things.
Yeah, I think what we had talked about, and we had just, as Scott said, we were just waiting on a proposal from the city to look at for that, was any city-related, like a city function, if you want to do training or I don't know what you want to do, public meetings.
Session, right.
Right. I mean, anything that the city of Corpus Christi, then that would be an agreement between the parties and
right.
We
or even programming.
Yeah.
Programming.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Right.
The Parks and Rec may want to do some,
right.
some kind of programming during the day.
We might have a boat shed out there. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Ouch.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Sergio's still here. Watch it.
Yeah. Hey,
Board Member Hernandez.
put it somewhere.
All right. We at the city changed our processes a little bit a while back about having something to design before going to construction. That way we have good estimates in terms of what the actual construction is cost. Would it be, and this also is reflective in our bond packages where we go out for design. It's something I work hard to, because what we would have is that you do an estimate, you go through the design process. By the time you're done with the design process, those estimates are a year old, and then you have to come back and figure out a way how to pay the difference. Would it be possible for us to just start on the design, go ahead and pay for that, and then come back and see what it really means? Because I think this is a good project. I think we need places, on certain parts of town where we have budget meetings, public engagement stuff, where we just don't have that ability in some parts of the area that we have to rent space or it's just not adequate. So I think this is good. And then the other part of that, I think the county deserves a lot of this as well, because you guys contribute to this TIRZ. And not sure that you've gotten the benefit that you've had of this TIRZ over the last 20 years. So I want to say that, can we go forward and then ask for the actual amount for what you actually need? Because I'd be supportive at that point as well.
So the OPPC that's out there, that's been costed out, is is as accurate as the professionals can make it, but, prior to doing that. The only issue is how do we do that in the sense of if we pay for the design and then the board says, oops, sorry, we don't like it, then we've paid for a design that we have to scale back. So it's a little bit of a, dicey deal, right? When we go out for bids at the county, we do what we've done here. We get the OPPC, we go out for bids, we make sure that we're good. So the answer is we can do it however the board tells us to. This is just normally how we do it when we're putting forth the project. As long we have to have funds available before we bid it, all those kind of things. We don't pay for anything we don't have paid for until we get it approved by the body, because you never know. Bodies can change, people's opinions can change. If we go forward and we pay for a design on a $6 million project and this board says, oh, sorry, never mind, then what do we do? And then we're 6 months farther down the line and here comes another request for another 5% increase, because that's the concern. Every time we come back and delay, it just goes up in cost. And so
that was why I was asking that, right? So you only come back once to know exactly how much you're going to increase, right? So if you go to the design and they say, okay, we did all our value engineering, we did everything associated with this, we looked at the wastewater, we looked at whatever it needs to be done. And then you just come back once and say, okay, this is the design, this is our best estimate, we did all the engineering work, it's going to be this amount. And you're right, there's a possibility things can change on boards and councils.
That's that's another 60 or 90 days. I mean, right. I'm being honest with you. I mean, we have pushed this project, and we've gotten it to a point where we're comfortable with the project scope and comfortable with the cost. And if it comes
what's your contingency?
I'm sorry?
What's your contingency on this?
You've got those numbers there.
Yeah.
The contingency is in there.
I'm not looking at it in front of me.
Another thing that we can do too is, and this worked really well on Bob Hall Pier, is you never know what the numbers are going to be until you get through bidding it, competitive bid process. And, that project came in $1.4 million over our budget, and we were able to value engineer that thing back down below budget. So we're working with a contractor. So that's something that it was really nice to do on that project, and that's something I'm going to make a practice with capital projects like this going forward. Once we get it to hard numbers from a contractor, if they're not where we need them to be, our architect and engineering firm is going to work with them to value engineer those numbers back in below budget. So it's a nice process to do.
So you want to keep it at this dollar amount and value engineer it to whatever it needs to be, keep it within this dollar amount, and not come back if you have overages?
Well, your engineering fees right now are estimated $671,000. Kind of hardly, was it 938?
Hold on. The answer to your question is yes, because we need to move forward, and so.
Well, it's just a difference in philosophy, right?
Right. It's just, you're right. It's a different.
It's just a difference.
And it is. And so the point is at $6 million roughly, and tell them what the contingency was.
Yes. The contingency is $262,500.
Which is.
Looks like about 5%.
Not a lot. Yeah. So it's a very small contingency. That I agree with.
It's not a lot.
That one's.
Okay. I just don't, I want to make sure that we have a good project, that we don't scale it down because we don't have enough money and you don't want to come back to us. And that's why I said if you had the design, I'm for the project. I think, like I said, I think it's a good project. I think the county needs to get benefit from the TIRZ. I would support it, in the future. I just want to make sure you get enough money to do it the right way, and maybe include the parking lot too. I mean, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. But it's how you guys want to do it. I would support it either way. Thank you.
Okay, we've got one more comment, but it sounds like we have the makings of the consensus wanting to move forward with it. So with that being said, we'll let Board Member Pusley comment.
Yeah, there's some of what Councilman Hernandez says that I agree with, but I understand the expediency. So there's probably nothing wrong with us going ahead and voting to approve this amount. And when you get into the project, when you start getting your formal bids, if it comes in higher, you can come back to this board and ask for more. my dad always told me, when you go to the bank, ask for enough money the first time. But,
Well, and we can always, we could always bid as an alternate the parking lot, and then if the board wants to look at it, it's not my intention to do it, but
I would suggest you do that, bid the parking lot as an alternate, and then come back to this board, because if the city, it's just like we were talking about the boat. If the city's going to utilize this facility, then we need to step up to the plate a little bit too. So I agree with that. But that being said, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to go ahead and pass this as submitted.
I'll second it. Third.
All right, we have a first, second, and third. Great project, super exciting for the island and the county, obviously, to get this thing moving. So thanks, Scott, Emily, all y'all's hard work to get it to this point, and Commissioner Chesney.
Thank you all.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, could I just get a response to on that timeline now going forward? Because I know the council still has to approve this, and I just kind of would like maybe Heather or somebody to kind of walk us through that so that everybody hears it, if you don't mind.
Sure. So yes, the budget will have to be amended. So we'll have to bring forward the amendment for that. Then we will need to do the interlocal agreement, which will need to be approved by City Council. So.
And what is the time frame? Like, I'm trying to figure out when we can actually feel like we have funds available to start getting the cost that everybody wants to see.
Sure. So we can move forward with the budget amendment as soon as possible. That would probably, just because of the way the schedule works, is we would take it to the 2 readings in November. If we can get, working through the interlocal agreement with the county's legal, that will have to come back to the TIRZ board, because technically, just like with a developer, you have you approve the project and the agreement, that'll come forward. So we could do that in November and then get it to City Council for approval. It would only require 1 reading, and so we could get that hopefully in November also.
And then I would just like to remind, I know this is a little different, we are not in the position to be able to do it like developers do. We would need to have some sort of interlocal agreement in place that allows us to draw the funds as needed, since, I know that everybody else has to perform first, but since it's, governmental entity, Heather's indicated that we can do that.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure and point that out as well too.
Yeah, so we'll have to,
we don't have $6 million lying around to do the project without these funds. So.
Yeah, so this will be a little bit different in the fact that it will have to be, we can't just reimburse, and so we'll work with the county on what that draw schedule looks like. We did that with the aquarium, actually, when we participated with the research center. We did a draw with them, and so we can model that similarly.
Yeah.
So if you
and
could
Heather,
just get
and Chairman, if I could just add that, so the interlocal agreement would go to Commissioner's Court as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the Commissioner, I think you all have just 1 meeting in November.
Yeah,
and
one in December.
And 1 in December. So it may be more, maybe we get everything done here in November, and then we take it to your meeting in December.
And we can also take ours and make it contingent upon doing it. So we can put it on the agenda, Peter, in November, and make it a contingent upon county judge and county attorney approval, that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
So we do that.
Okay, we'll work for those timelines then.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then if you'll just, Jacqueline, if you'll just reach out and let me know if you don't get it, if you need any roadblocks overturned, please let me know. But our county attorney will do a great job for you. But if you have any slowdown, please let me know.
Yes, we'll be reaching out and we'll work towards that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry.
That's great. I think it's in everybody's best interest to just keep the team together, to keep identifying any potential roadblocks and keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5, 24-1737, discussion and possible action on approval of a force main bypass project for Park Road 22 lift station. Mr. Winkleman.
Good morning. Nick Winkleman, Director of Water Systems. The background of this particular project, I want to give you a little history. The Park Road 22 lift station was constructed as part of the bridge improvements. That lift station is rated for 2 million gallons per day. And that rating was determined for current and future demand. Currently, that lift station is moving about 350,000 gallons per day. There's a single 16-inch force main associated with that lift station. That force main currently has 3 water crossings, which makes it a little complicated and certainly adds a lot more risk and environmental sensitivity to that force main as well. Any repairs, because of those crossings, any repairs to that force main would be more difficult, obviously. The request of this project is to install a bypass line for that lift station. So in the event that primary 16-inch force main fails or there's repairs required, that lift station can remain in operation and we can pump into that bypass line, which will then be, that line will transport into the gravity system, eventually making its way to the Whitecap wastewater treatment plant.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have no comments, questions. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? There's no opposition there, is there? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 6, 24-1718, discussion of a new TIRZ business incentive program.
Hi, good morning. Arturo Marquez, Director of Economic Development for the City of Corpus Christi. And today we're going to be talking about, or actually gauging your interest on the development of business incentives for this particular TIRZ. So the TIRZ was created primarily for the construction and the maintenance of Packery Channel, and since then it has expanded to include incorporated areas like the Nueces County Natural Park and the Briscoe King Pavilion. Currently there are no incentives available for businesses. However, we're bringing this to you guys because we have gotten different calls, and we've gotten a lot of interest from different business owners that want to do development in this area, and currently we do not have anything specific to offer them. So what we're here to do today is to discuss, the potential of moving forward with developing business incentives. But we want to get some feedback from you guys and see if that is something that the board is interested in, and to specify if there are certain areas, specific areas within the existing TIRZ that you guys would like to see develop. I'm going to go back to this slide. I just want to, for the purpose of what we're talking about, this is just the defined area of the TIRZ. So we would like to see if there's any specific areas, specific roads, or certain neighborhoods that you would be interested in developing or creating incentives for. So one of them is that we're interested in the target areas. Also, if there is interest in creating the business incentive program here, we'd like to see if there's any limitations that you guys would like to set on. Whether there's a limit on percentage if an incentive is created, if and what that limit would be, and also if there's any specific businesses that you guys would like to see or would not like to incentivize. Just as an example that I've used in previous communities is that we typically do not incentivize fast food places or other non-property tax generating businesses such as used car sales lot and laundry places. So if there's anything specific that you guys want to try to attract, or if there's anything specific that should be left out or stated on the policy that we do not specifically incentivize. As I mentioned, this is just the area that the TIRZ covers for now. And we'd like to get some feedback on any area that you guys are interested in incentivizing. With this, our proposal is that we are aiming to create a survey and send it out to the public within this community to see what their interest is also, not only from you guys, but also from the interest. And also work with PIBA to make sure that we understand what their wants and needs are as far as any business wants in there. We can model some of the incentives based on what is already existing through other TIRZ. For example, under TIRZ 3 and on TIRZ 4, we do have the project-specific development agreement, which is a reimbursement of any incremental tax generated after the business has already been established. Or we also have some other two different ones, for example, under TIRZ number 3 in the downtown area, where it's the Streetscapes and Safety Improvement Program, or something different like in North Beach, where we have the North Beach Property Improvement Program. So these are just, maybe some models that we can go after. But again, this community is different. This might have different needs, whether it's through infrastructure or, beautification of the location. So we are here to get that feedback from you. So What we believe is that this incentive could probably benefit more for new construction rather than it is to renovate existing buildings. We believe that the island can benefit more out of trying to get new development in there versus trying to, reestablish old or, vacant buildings. We will keep the same benefits as with any incentive program, and the goal will be to, of course, generate jobs, enhance infrastructure, bring in more businesses, and promote the quality of life. So again, for now, we would just like to start that conversation with the board and get your feedback on whether you guys think this is something that you guys would like for us to continue pursuing. If it is, if there are any specific areas throughout the island that you guys are interested in seeing being developed, gauging your interest or also allowing us to go and meet with PIBA and the different community groups on the island. And if that is the case, then we will come back with a draft of what that incentive program would look like for this TIRZ.
Thanks for bringing this forward. I'd had some folks reach out to me. I think some of y'all probably have as well. My thoughts on this is, the island has been waiting for the longest time for some sort of catalytic project. I mean, 30 plus years, back to Ralph Durden and Lake Padre. And now we fast forward to now, and we've got two huge projects that this board has funded and invested in significantly. And those two projects alone are going to be very catalytic, hopefully, for all the other business owners and investors that have been preparing for this moment. And so I'm very supportive of this. I think we need to be careful about crafting the right model that we do that going forward. We don't have a whole lot of vacant buildings and that sort of thing. But anyways, I'm super supportive of it. And Board Member Guajardo.
Yeah, thank you. Well, likewise, I'm very supportive of this, and I think it's something that is definitely going to spur a lot of activity. But like you said, those two projects are hands down catalytic, and so they're going to contribute to the economic impact and the the success, right, of business owners and our business community out on the island. I'm very supportive of this, but I also would like, and I think this is going to be in your homework, right, moving forward, bring back how many businesses do we have out there,
okay.
And in what sectors of in what industry, so to speak. Just as much information as you can. I think the best is going to be talking to the business owners, speaking with PIBA and their members, but I think this is great. But the more information you can bring back, the better, because this certainly isn't, we can look at the other, which is a good idea, look at downtown TIRZ and North Beach, and don't we have another one, downtown North Beach? And well, this one.
Not active ones with business incentives. No.
Right. But of course, each one is very unique to itself. So I think this is great. I'm very excited about it. When do you see, how long do you see this in terms of going through the process of, getting your data and figuring out what a plan might look like?
Sure, yeah. And also, if you don't mind, I always like to use the opportunities to, put in a plug. So I'd like to introduce to William Cox. He is actually our new business development manager, and he is business retention and expansion. So the question that you say, like talking to businesses, how many businesses are there? What sort of industry already exists? So his purpose, his job position requires for him to talk to the business owners and see how we can expand their business. So if anything, we can actually interview the businesses themselves to see what supportive services we can provide through other businesses. So we can definitely get that information back to you.
Okay.
As far as the timeline, I can safely say that maybe within a 3-month period, we can have something like a draft ready for you. We can, within that time frame, come back and give you some updates as far as information that we have gathered. Obviously, if you guys can help us out, kind of create that communication with PIBA and the other business associations. But I can, safely say that within a 3-month period, we can have an actual draft with some in-between stops here and there with, some updates and some feedback that we can get as we continue drafting that. So.
Great. Thank you.
Board Member Hernandez.
Thank you. I had a conversation with former Councilman Smith about how this TIRZ work and how it's mainly for public infrastructure as opposed to economic incentive, which I don't have a problem with either one. I guess the concern I have is that, we're just in the beginning discussions of the regional parkway with a second crossing to the bridge. And you know, if you build too much too quickly and you don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to get people off the island in a relatively quick fashion, you may create some animosity from the residents that are there.
Sure.
Right, to where you grow too quickly. So I just want to make sure that whatever we do, we look at the overall impact on how it goes to the island and the community that's there, so we don't overbuild, so to speak.
Sure.
Right. So it's got to, you know, you got a yin and a yang here with incentive versus what you're capable of maintaining. You know, I'd always ask that we have some funding associated with it going to wherever that regional parkway crosses. TxDOT just did a scoping meeting a couple weeks ago. So as a matter of fact, that if you want to submit comments to that, it's at TxDOT.gov. Type in regional parkway. You have until Friday the 18th to put in comments on the regional parkway. So I just plug there.
Sure.
Whatever that looks like, I just want to make sure that we have that ability, that we understand the impact. We don't just pour gas on everything that comes away, so we can have these kind of things. I just want to make sure we're doing the looking at it from the bigger picture.
And just so I understand correctly, your two main points of area or focus is transportation, whether we have the capacity to bring people in and out, and infrastructure to make sure that we have the
infrastructure and obviously another crossing across the, you know, not only for that, but for safety as well. Okay, thank you.
Board Member Chesney.
So I'm trying to figure out exactly where this one came from too, because public input is great. We always want to have public input, but I feel certain that if you polled the island and you said, we're going to spend every last dime that we have in the TIRZ on the second causeway, they'd all jump for joy and be as happy as clams. And I think that's about as much. So I guess I don't want the staff to spend a lot of time, like, it's super easy to engage PIBA. Many of us up here go regularly and we can do them. It's super easy to engage ISAC, because that would be another group to engage, because they're very engaged on the island of Jay's at all these meetings, and those folks do a great job. I just wouldn't want, I don't know exactly where you're headed with this, so I guess I need to see that slide again, because and what Councilman Suckley and the mayor said are right. We seem to have a pretty good overview and plan and purpose, so can you tell me again where you're headed with this and why exactly? Because I don't know why we're doing this.
It's definitely a fair question. So we've gotten both council and the staff have gotten, you know, several different calls from business owners that are wanting to set up shop and, you know, wanting to expand their business on the island. And one of the first few questions that they ask us, aside from the infrastructure question, whether there's capacity, whether there's available room, whether there's space, or whether there's land out there, usually the question that follows is whether there's any incentives available through the city. And, you know, there is an interest on this particular area, but typically our answer, well, unfortunately, our answer is usually no. There are no incentives available for this area for any development. Now,
there's no incentives available for this area for development because we've committed them all, or because why?
Because we don't have.
It's all infrastructure.
Yeah, for now, majority, if not everything. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Say that. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh yeah. Okay.
No, you can repeat it. Just couldn't hear it. Sorry.
The project and financing plan does not have currently any business incentives embedded in it.
Business incentives, like what would that be? Meaning.
Sure.
Like, because in other words, if you're talking about redesigning this whole TIRZ, that's not just a simple ask. I mean, as Councilman Hernandez just said, there's been a design, it's been in place for 20 years. We just renewed it for 20 years under the scope in which we renewed it. So you're basically wanting to redesign the whole TIRZ.
No, so if anything, what we want to do is carve out just a small portion to be available for businesses that want to set up shop over there. So, and this is why
so that's redesigning the TIRZ. I mean, you could call it what you want, but the TIRZ has a definition. It's been in place for 20 years. I don't remember us amending it. And again, I'm not saying no. I'm just trying to figure out where this stuff comes from. Like, meaning, I'm worried that we don't have enough money to do what we need to do now because if that causeway is of utmost importance, and that's a TxDOT project, and hopefully they're going to fund the majority of it because it's probably another, I don't know, $1 billion project, but they're going to want local match. And to me, the safety of that island is absolutely, we've got to have a second causeway. So I'm really nervous about putting funds towards things that thing is crucial, and they may want us to put 20 million in. I know Councilman Hernandez suggested 12 or 15 or whatever it takes, right? And he's led on this, and I appreciate that. So basically, you're asking the board to consider a redesign of the entire TIRZ, and that's what it is. I mean, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying everybody needs to know what that is.
I agree. No.
This is a total redesign. We're completely changing what we've all voted on as bodies. We got our public input. We voted to renew it. We all voted to do it. We all went and got our public input. I mean, I talked to people all over the island, and just like Mr. Suckley did, and the mayor, and all the large council members. So you're gonna ask us now to have to go redo this with everybody. So let's just be real sure we know what we're asking for, because if there's some businesses that aren't getting serviced, then maybe we need to see what those are before we tell you to go spend 60 or 90 days in redesigning the entire TIRZ that's been in place for.
Well, I mean, I'll just say, Board Member Chesney, I think that's what the ask is over the next 90 days or so, is come back with some recommendations of what that may look like. So this is not an actionable item. This is just discussion item.
But we're
it's good discussion.
We're directing staff to go spend time on this.
Absolutely, but it's not to recreate the TIRZ. It's to look and see if there's a small segment of the TIRZ funding that could be used for possible business incentives, and that's what the community's asked. I've had several conversations with folks that have asked, why is there not something like that on the island? It may come back, and I won't be here, but when you guys come back and evaluate it, you may at that point decide, you know what? We don't want to dedicate it. Or you might say, let's segment off 5% of the TIRZ budget and say that this 5% is available for potential business opportunities. I don't know. But to your point, I agree 100%. We have way more important things to be doing in terms of big picture infrastructure, things for the island that are important for the future. So.
And do other TIRZs do this? Do other TIRZs have business incentive programs that in the city of Corpus Christi?
Exactly. So that's what TIRZ number. No. He's asking about the existing TIRZ. So TIRZ number 3 downtown is built a lot around the business incentives. TIRZ number 4 on North Beach has business incentives. And so actually this is an outlier in the fact that this TIRZ was primarily for infrastructure.
Right.
And so I did want to just comment on the fact that the project and financing plan is a living, breathing document. And we are not recommending removing any of the programs that are already currently authorized under the project and financing plan. This would be adding an additional one, and as the chairman mentioned, we can put dollar amount limits on it, we can put percentage amount limits on it. So this is actually would be proposed as a very small portion. This TIRZ is estimated to produce almost 200 million over the 20-year period, and the majority of that right now is assigned to infrastructure, and we have developer incentives like we've done for Lake Padre and for Whitecap, but this would provide an incentive tool to be able for individual businesses.
And how does it work in the other TIRZs? How do they apply? How does it work? I mean, does everybody get the same shot? Is it every business is I'm not involved in the other TIRZs, so that's why I'm asking. So I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking.
So we put together, and that's why we're talking about the fact that we would want to go through and maybe identify specific sectors, identify maybe new construction versus redevelopment, maybe expansion, and so those are all things that can be incentivized. Normally these are reimbursements, but there are defined programs. It's not just we would give any business money. It would have to be under a defined program for a defined purpose for a defined dollar amount. They are reimbursements, and it would have to come to the TIRZ board for approval. And you ask where this came from. This actually had been discussed at the TIRZ board meeting prior to the budget, and there was interest expressed by the board, and so that's why staff is bringing this back for more discussion.
Yeah, this was discussed, I think it was the previous meeting. If not, it was 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, it was before, I think it was either at the first budget meeting or I think it was the first budget meeting.
Yeah, they're just questions. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not asking because I am against it. I'm just asking to really find out and to make sure everybody understands that, it does. And again, when you bring it back, if you can bring a cost analysis of what the cost that we've got committed what the asks potentially for infrastructure are, and how much would this take from those asks, that would just be helpful too. So again, I don't have an opinion on it at this point. I'm just asking questions. So,
Board Member Guajardo.
Yeah, thank you. I think actually I appreciate, Commissioner, your questions, but I think this is something that is, you talk about model, and I guess we're so used to the other TIRZs that have this built in. And this is a very, very good thing, I think, it kind of all works together. I mean, at the end of the day, it all very much works together. I think the time investment is just that. It's going to be an investment to know where do we go from, do we move forward with this? But I think the critical thing is the people you're going to talk to.
Sure.
It isn't necessarily up to us to say, yes, there is a need. No, there's not. Let's go talk to the business owners. Let's go talk to the people who live on the island and see how they feel about this. Because amending a model or adding, incentives, to me, it's a plus. I understand there are needs, for the causeway, but today, there is not a plan in place to say we're going to need X amount of money from this bucket, from that bucket, that could change. We just don't know. Business owners, small business owners, they need incentives today, and we know that. So the key is to figure out what that balance is. So I think it's a great initiative to go look into, and especially to go talk to the business owners and the people who live on the island to see how they feel about this. It's their tax dollars.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, and William, I think if you're going to be the one doing it, I think to a lot of the points that have been discussed is I think you need to frame the discussion to understand what's available now in the TIRZ, how it was set up originally, what the intention was, and this is something we're looking at trying to adapt what maybe a future purpose would be on a small scale. So people can make that decision as to how important it is for them to spend TIRZ dollars as it is now versus adding another component to it.
Right.
So, Board Member Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand how this could be a beneficial portion of the TIRZ, but I guess the question I would have, and I think some members of this board have already asked this, is do we have the money for all current projects? The future causeway, all the canal bridges, all related infrastructure projects, not just along the canals, but within the TIRZ zone? I think that's what we need to be looking at.
Yeah, we can definitely find that answer.
We don't have the money is the answer. I mean, that's hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, I don't think anybody knows what the causeway ask is going to be, to Board Member Chesney's point, but certainly it's going to be significant. With no other questions, time is pressing. There being no further business, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.